All right, folks, let's get started with the webinar today. Today's webinar for B2W software is going to be Safety on the Job. Are paper processes putting you at risk? So what we're going to do is going to go through some introductions and just kind of go over the agenda of what we're going to cover today. Couple introductions. Alongside me today is Eliza Holzman. Eliza is the product manager for B2W Inform, and she's going to be doing the first part of the webinar today. And then for the second part of the session, my name is Mark Hooks. I'm a solutions engineer with the company, and I'll be doing the product demonstration, showing you how Inform can help with some of the processes and things that Eliza is going to be discussing. So the agenda today is we're going to talk about the challenges of meeting OSHA requirements. And that's a big one. OSHA's safety recommendations, also how to leverage mobile technology to streamline your safety processes. We'll do a demonstration, just a high-level look at how B2W Inform can help manage some of those processes and really streamline and increase the efficiencies there. And we'll also have time at the end for a Q&A session. Alongside us today, too, is Anthony Salvatore. Anthony is a solutions engineer at the company. He's going to be managing the questions panel. We'll do our best to take questions as we go along, but we'll have some dedicated time at the end of the webinar today as well. So if you do have questions, post them in the questions panel. Sometimes if they're very niche questions or really specific to maybe your company that you know the entire audience may not get a whole lot of, or if we need some more information, we may have to contact you after the webinar, so we'll do that as well. So let's get started. I'm going to pass this over to Eliza and let her jump off on safety on the job or paper processes putting you at risk.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark, and thank you all for joining us today. As you know, the job site can be a very dangerous place, which means the safety of your employees is paramount. So on top of keeping your workforce trained and safe, which is a challenge in itself, there are a myriad of regulations to stay in compliance with, which includes OSHA. And that means upkeep and accessibility to up-to-date records. So there are three kind of main situations in which OSHA will come calling. That's when an incident occurs or random job auditing, as well as an anonymous concern that was submitted by an employee. So it's important to keep any relevant records easy to find and share accordingly with OSHA. However, most times it's really never that simple, especially when using a paper-intensive system. So what are some of the challenges of OSHA requirements? When collecting information to hand over to OSHA, there may be many ways in which the paper manual process can go wrong. Finding the correct documentation can be labor-intensive. Forms are often stored in filing cabinets or boxes, which are time-consuming and difficult to sort through. So how can we really confirm that the paperwork was actually completed? And on top of that, can we really even read the paperwork that was completed and that we can find? Storing and accessing the documentation can be an additional challenge. So long-term, where are these records being stored, and is the paperwork being stored across multiple locations? For the short term, you may only have so much room in a job trailer, and the longer you go without the required paperwork, OSHA is going to come back and fine you each day that you don't have that. So a lot of challenges here. So if all of this is time-consuming and difficult, like we hear from many companies that it is, what's the point? Why bother? Well, there are plenty of reasons to improve safety and health at your company, and we'll come back to how capturing and accessing this information can be a lot easier than using a paper or manual process. But first, we're going to look at why safety and health programs are so important. So here are some of OSHA's recommendations. Establishing a safety and health program at your job site is one of the most effective ways of protecting your most valuable asset, which is your workers. Losing workers to injury or illness, even for a short time, can cause significant disruption and cost to you as well as the workers and their families. And it can also damage workplace morale, productivity, turnover, and reputation. Using safety and health programs, they foster a proactive approach to finding and fixing job site hazards before they can cause injury or illness. So rather than reacting to an incident, management and workers can collaborate to identify and solve issues before they occur. And we've seen that this collaboration builds trust, enhances communication, and often leads to other business improvements. finding and fixing hazards before they cause injury or illness is a far more effective approach than a reactive one. Doing so avoids the direct and indirect costs of worker injuries and illnesses and promotes a positive work environment. So for success, we want to start with a small basic program and then expand from there. So some of the best practices. To back up some of these recommendations, OSHA presented a study that garnered some interesting facts. So a study of small employers in Ohio found that workers' comp fell dramatically after adopting programs similar to those described in OSHA's recommended practices. So we look at some of the statistics here. 52% was the average number of claims that decreased. 80% of the cost per claim decreased. 87% of average time lost per claim decreased, and 88% of claims per $1 million of payroll decreased. So there are some big numbers here. Obviously, good to look at some of these improvements by implementing safety and health programs. Excuse me. Responsible employers know that the main goal of a safety and health program is to prevent work-related injuries, illnesses, and deaths, as well as the suffering and financial hardships these events can cause for workers, their families, and their employers. However, employers may find that implementing these recommended practices bring other benefits as well. The renewed or enhanced commitment to safety and health and the cooperative atmosphere between employers and workers have been linked to improvements in production quality, better employee morale, improved safety, recruiting, and retention, and a more favorable image and reputation among customers, suppliers, and the community, which is obviously very important. And it's been proven that implementing a safety and health program can help employers avoid the indirect costs that result from workplace incidents, such as time lost due to work stoppages and investigations, training and other costs associated with replacing injured workers, and loss or damage to material, machinery, and property. And these indirect costs have been estimated to be at least 2.7 times the direct costs. So big numbers here. So what can we do to get started? OSHA recommends 9 easy things to do here. And completing these steps will definitely give you a solid base from which to take on even more structured actions and expanding from that smaller sort of crawl, walk, run approach. So 1, always set safety and health as the top priority. So telling your workers to make sure that they finish the day and go home safely is the way that you do business, and assure them that you will work with them to find and fix any hazards that could injure them or make them sick. 2, lead by example. Practice safe behaviors yourself and make safety part of your daily conversations with workers. 3, implementing a reporting system. So to develop and communicate a simple procedure for workers to report any injuries, illnesses, and incidents, hazards, or safety and health concerns without fear of retaliation. And this is really important because people don't want to feel like they're going to get in trouble if they do report anything. Providing training would be number 4, so training workers on even how to identify and control hazards, using, for example, OSHA's hazard identification training. 5, conduct inspections. So once people are trained on how to identify the hazards, inspecting the job site with workers and asking them to identify any activity, piece of equipment, or material that concerns them. 6, collect hazard control ideas. So we want to talk with workers about ideas on safety improvements throughout the project. 7 would be implementing hazard controls. So assigning workers the task of choosing, implementing, and evaluating the solutions. Number 8 would be addressing emergencies. So identifying foreseeable emergency scenarios and developing instructions on what to do in each case. So we want to meet to discuss these procedures and post them in a visible location at the job site so that everyone is aware of these things. And then 9, making improvements. So as you start to implement some of these safety and health programs, it's really important to set aside some time regularly to discuss these with the goal of identifying ways to improve the program that you've implemented. So keeping in mind all the benefits that a safety and health program can provide to your company, we also want to think about ways in which we can make the data capture and the accessibility piece of this as easy as possible. B2W Inform can help streamline and eliminate the headaches of a paper manual process when OSHA comes knocking. So what is B2W Inform? It's an enterprise data collection and analysis tool built in with alerts and workflow. Inform lets you create an unlimited number of custom forms that can be filled out from any browser-enabled device, and it sends all the data back to the office where it can be accessed instantly and analyzed anytime. So using eForms in B2W Inform, there are a bunch of things that this does for you guys. It ensures that form fillers are capturing the uniform data and they're set up to do so ahead of time. So no waiting for paper forms or safety topics to come in the mail. Hopefully, you know, sometimes when that happens, people are late to get those forms and it just causes a big headache. There's no need to drive to the office to retrieve those forms, and there's really no need for someone to send them back in by driving back to the office. So it's really just pressing submit when they've finished filling out that form. Required fields within a form ensures that forms are filled out with the correct data. No empty fields if they're required. Our approve reject workflow allows for multiple people to review a form the moment it has been submitted to ensure all the necessary data is being captured. We also can collect enriched data, things that you can't collect in a manual process or on a paper form, things like photos, electronic signatures, timestamps, and geolocations as well. And then all the data that is being collected on those forms is legible. So there's no guessing, you know, is that a 6 or is that a 9, etc. And everything is saved to a central database so that any form can be accessed at any time. So you don't have to search around through the paper forms or dig them out of storage, and there's no physical storage necessary. So a lot of really great things here that can help streamline that process. Alerts and notifications make sure that people get notified when incidents occur or hazards are identified so that they can react to them in a timely manner. And reporting allows for extracting relevant data easily and quickly and rendering OSHA forms in their required format. So if we want to look at things like who attended what safety topics for a toolbox talk, or did the foreman educate the crew on specific safety topics as frequently as they're supposed to, or did the crew perform a job safety inspection to identify hazards, and what were the follow-up actions that were taken for those. We can also superimpose data that's been collected in an Inform form onto things like OSHA forms if they have to be in a very particular format. And then you can generate a PDF from that and hand it in that required format. So what is the business value around B2W Inform? The goal is to reduce cost, so lessen job site costs and stoppages due to accidents. We want to manage risk, so worker ownership and maintaining safety records. We also want to ensure compliance and definitely have a rapid and efficient response to OSHA inspections instead of digging for all those paper forms, et cetera, so that you're not running around looking for them. We also want to increase profits, right? So we want to be able to make more timely and informed business decisions and keep your workforce safe so that they can focus on the job they set out to do instead of worrying about job site conditions. And then being able to identify trends and respond accordingly. So ultimately, B2W Inform can help you more easily implement a safety and health program and capture the data needed in a streamlined and timely fashion so that you can focus on keeping your workers safe and not have to worry about where your data is and how to find it when OSHA comes knocking. So on that note, I am going to change this over to Mark so he can jump into the product.
All right. So thanks, Eliza. So now let's go and see how B2W Inform can help you deal with all the challenges that Eliza spoke about. So let me bring up the product here. As the screen says here, B2W Inform unlocks the power of your data. So no matter how you're collecting and reporting on data now, what we can do is really help you redesign the inefficient data management process across your organization. Inform can be used to create any type of form, and then bring all that data together with a very powerful reporting engine in the background. So it really can be instrumental in gathering their information that you need for any OSHA visit. And I do want to point out that over and above other products out there, B2W Inform is not just a forms creation tool. As we walk through the product demonstration today, you'll see that it is really so much more than that. So here's the login page for B2W Inform. And you'll log in with your username and password. And based on your permissions, you'll have access to different areas of the program. So I'll hit the login screen here. And now here on the home page, you'll see those different areas that I mentioned. You can create templates, which will become the forms for the users to fill out. The users can fill out the forms here. Reports can be generated on any of the information that's within a form. And that in itself is a huge benefit in regards to getting all the OSHA information at your fingertips when you need it, without having to search hundreds of pieces of paper or electronic documents to get what you need. You'll also see alerts and notifications can be created to automatically notify people of what's going on and what needs to be addressed, all in real time. And also there's an area for your administrators to set up users' permissions and things like that in the background. Now, we're going to touch on most of these areas, but just remember, based on permissions, the user will only see the areas you want them to see. Most end users are only going to log in and see the forms area. Before we get into the templates area, it's worth mentioning too that ease of use is a huge factor in getting folks to collect the information that you need when OSHA knocks at your door. Our adaptive user interface makes it easy to fill out the form on any device, PC to a smartphone. When the user opens up B2W Inform, the screen automatically resizes itself to match that device. It just makes it easier for the user to complete the forms. So it all starts with creating the template. When you build out a template, you can set up certain defaults. So when you initially log in, you'll see the drafts that are being worked on, the ones that have already been published as forms. But when you create a new template, you hit the button here, and this is where you can set up those defaults. You can give it a template name. You can create user-defined categories, which basically just helps you narrow down these in a big list, but also creates the template categories for the forms as well. So the forms can be grouped into these different user-defined categories. Does this template or subsequent form need to be approved? Is there a multi-level approval process that needs to be turned on so that I can send this out to one person or multiple folks to do that approval process? Can I copy from an existing template? So that way, if you're building new templates and you've got one that looks like the other, you don't have to start from scratch. You can copy from existing templates and just make the modifications. You can create groupings, which are really kind of virtual folders that you can store these templates and subsequent forms in. And at this point, when I assign it a grouping, when the guys go to save the form, it's already set up to go into that pseudo folder. You know, what size is the template, the orientation. And a big one is here. When a user goes in to fill out a form, and your company has 50 or 60 different forms, when they go in to fill it out, you don't want them to have to wander through the 50 or 60 that are there to see the 2 that they actually need to get to. So by limiting who sees it, you really increase the efficiency when they go to fill it out. So I can assign this template to a group of users or even individual users so that when they go into the forms area, they only see the ones that you've given them permission to see. So let's take a look at one of the templates now. So I'm going to go back up to the templates area. And we're going to pick on an OSHA template. I'm going to look at the Injury Incident Report OSHA Form 301. This template lets you collect data that's needed for the standard OSHA form, but all the other information that's being collected can be for job site information that can be used for any other reports as well. When you log into the templates area, you really see 2 different spots. On this side, it's called the palette, and this is where you'll see all the different elements or types of fields that you can simply just drag and drop onto the canvas to create the template, which becomes a form. There's all kinds. There's text boxes, there's drop downs, there's checklists, radio buttons, media uploads, file uploads. You can embed images or file, even computed fields that you can put on here as well. So basically, it is really just a simple drag and drop to drop the type of fields you want on. And then once you go into the field, you can click on the properties of that field. You give it a label, which is what the guy will see on the form related to that field. You'll give it a unique name, which can be the same as the label text. We'll copy those in those sections for you. But that's the unique name for reporting purposes, so you know what field you're pulling onto a report. And in this case, with like drop downs, you can do single or multiple choices. You can allow them to put in custom entries. You can even create a hard-coded drop down for them. So if there's certain things you want them to see in the drop down, you can create that in the options area. But in another piece, again, back to our operations platform, we have B2W track, we have dispatch schedule and maintain, and also inform falls into that. That database can hold information that we can bind to. So in this case, when you're talking about a job drop down, listing all the jobs there might be tough, but I can actually link back to our B2W operations database to grab that information to have it automatically updated as I update B2W operations. It's not just jobs though. I can link back over to accounts, employees, equipment, materials, labor types, all kinds of things that I can grab automatically and pull in to update these lists. But again, that's just a few of the types of fields, checkbox fields to make it easy for the guys to get their information in, data entry fields that we've taken care of, Google Speak and Siri voice to text recognition that takes care of that if using on a smartphone or a tablet. All the way down to enriched data, as Liza mentioned, we can actually upload photos directly from the tablet or smartphone and embed them into the form. And then down at the bottom, also signature fields as well that can date, timestamp, and also geolocate the user when they come in and do that. A couple of things across the top, when you highlight a field, you'll notice we can also change label font. Where is the label going to be oriented? But a big one is, as Eliza mentioned earlier, is required elements on a form. When you create the template, if there's certain things that you know OSHA is going to have to know when the guys fill out this form, then you can create any of the fields on here as required, so they have to put the data in. If they don't enter the data and they go in and try to save the form or submit it at the end of the day, they'll get a warning that says, hey, you can't do that. You've got to go fill out that required information. So again, helping make sure you get the data that you need to be OSHA prepared. Now, once the template is published, it's ready for the folks to fill out. So we'll bounce out of here and go down to the forms area. In the forms area, the users can see all the forms that they're working on and the status of the forms. There's drafts, there's ones that are completed, pending approval, rejected, sent back to me so that I can tune them up a bit and send them back through the ones that have been approved. And here, when you click fill out a form, it takes you to the form that you've been given access to. And again, we're trying to make it as easy as we can for the guys to fill out what they need to fill out. So this is not all 50 or 60 forms for the company. It gets you down to the ones that you've been given permission to see. So let's continue with the OSHA form. So I'm going to click on the incident injury OSHA report that we've got here that created that form. And then basically, you start out with some general information that's going to date, timestamp. Again, if there had been a grouping associated, then that would be automatically there, or you can decide where you're going to store that form. And in the background, you'll see also an approval sequence. This is where I can choose who I want to send this to. I'm going to send that over to Jeremy to get it approved. And if there's multiple folks I need to send it to, I can create additional approvers, and I can even save that approval sequence so I don't have to remember to do that each time. Once it's saved, it's ready for me to just come down, fill out the information I need, grab the job that I'm on. All the drop downs too, again, just to make it easy. If I'm filling this out as a foreman and saying, well, Matt is the guy that was injured, well, I again don't have to scroll down my full list. It's a type ahead character search, so I can easily find whatever I need in any of the fields. Checkbox fields, again, to make it very easy for them to get the data in. The data entry fields, again, if I was filling it out on a tablet or a smartphone, I would have voice to text recognition. all the way down through all the other fields. And again, if I was using this on a tablet or a phone, I could take multiple pictures or videos and embed them into the form. And then down at the bottom, I need to put my signature in there. I hit the button, there's my name, put my signature on there, and that would be a lot prettier if you're doing it on a phone or a tablet because you can use your finger to do your signature. And now when I save my signature, it date, timestamps, and puts my geolocation on there as well. So again, trying to make it as fast and simple for the guys to get the information you need to be prepared for any situation. At the end of the form, they're going to submit it. And what that does, it now pushes out those notifications in the background to the folks who need to approve that form, all seamlessly and all in real time. And you can even see the history of the form here as well. So here I can see who did it, who I submitted it to, and it goes through the submit and approval, rejection process. All those steps will be seen here in the history. So once it's saved, it's immediately reportable information. And as Eliza mentioned, there's no delays in getting the information back to the office. There's no driving the forms to and from the site. And as you all know, employee time equals money in any organization. So the time saving there is huge for companies. The approvals are going out automatically in real time. Any alerts and notifications based on what was filled out are going out to the folks both in the company and outside the company, again in real time. And it is worth mentioning, some paper forms never really make it back to the office. So with this solution, the information is always going to be there. So before we go to a few of the reports and dashboards to show how we're going to pull all this information, I'm going to skip down to the alerts and notifications first. This is huge when you need to be prepared for the inevitable OSHA visit. Alerts and notifications can be set up on any area of the form so that when the user enters the information, the alert is sent out automatically. And you decide what information or combination of things that they enter that will actually fire off that notification. So I'm just going to go into that job site injury one just to show you what they look like in the background. I'll put it in edit mode. First, you're going to give it a title. That's your alert title. Next, you choose the template that it's going to be associated with. And then you can create unlimited parameters, so to speak, to tell the system how you want to send out that alert. So in this case, if that injury field on there is yes, and I'm on job General Sullivan's Bridge, then these people are automatically going to be notified. You can create as many and or statements on there to be, to give different parameters on how you want that to be fired off. As I mentioned, you can also send alerts outside the company as well, email or text alerts to external recipients that are not part of your database. You can also put in kind of a general description here that when they get that alert in their hand, there's going to be some description on why they're getting it. And if you're sending it out in an email, you can actually send the actual form PDF in the email with it so they actually get the form that was filled out as well. And to just kind of give you a look at what those notifications look like, let me show you what they look like. Here's what an email notification would look like. Hello, the alert's been triggered, the alert name, the form owner, some brief information on what's going on, and the text alert notification is going to look like that. So again, trying to get that into the people's hands as quickly as possible. So again, this is huge. When you need to be prepared for that inevitable OSHA visit, the alerts and notifications can be set up so that you're getting that information automatically. And it really gives the people the ability to get a jump on getting the information they need without having any delays. And if any of you have ever been involved in an OSHA investigation, you know that preparation is key. So now, the templates are in place, the forms are being filled out, the approvals and notifications are being sent. Now you need to get to all that information without having to sort through things manually. The reporting engine in B2W Inform will save you hours or days in getting all this data compiled. So let's take a look at a couple of the dashboard examples that we built into the system, just to show you how they can be put together. So I'm going to go into the report section here. And I'm going to go just to the top one there, the site inspection dashboard. This dashboard, as it queries the database and pulls in the information in real time from any forms that have been filled out, pulls in graphics information from across our site inspection form. It shows the score of each site, It shows any unsatisfactory issues that were noted, and down below you'll notice it even breaks down the specific information for each job site. So let's take a look at another dashboard. Let's go back out to the reports area, and we're going to go to the incident dashboard. Reports and dashboards can be a combination of information across multiple forms as well. Here you can see all the information on the forms compiled into a single screen with built-in filters. I can look at incident type. I can narrow it down to a single project, state the date area that I want to look at it. And all of this is up to date as the people in the field filling out the information. So again, there's no delay in getting the information back to the office. There's nobody who has to manually put this into another system to get this to you. Now, when OSHA needs to see the incidents in the field, all of this is right at your fingertips. And you can even drill down into the actual form here as well. Again, avoiding costly fines because of delayed or missing information for those announced and those dreaded unannounced OSHA visits. Another example, we can build reports, as Eliza mentioned earlier, that document safety meetings such as toolbox talks and things too. So let me go right back out to the front here and we'll do a search for that toolbox talk. So our toolbox talk submittal report, this is one that really just shows you who has been sending me in their toolbox talk. So I can see the folks who are sending them in on a daily basis and people who are potentially not sending them in. So I now know who I need to talk to make sure they're sending in those OSHA-related toolbox talk forms that I know I need to have in place. And also, Eliza mentioned, we can upload PDFs such as the OSHA Form 301, and using that form I showed you earlier, map the information to the fields on the form. So we'll go right back out, and now we'll search for the OSHA form and open that up. And now you'll see the ability to actually import the PDF, and you'll be able to use the template that we showed you earlier to create a really easy to use form to get the information entered. And in the background, you can have the actual forms you need being completed. And all the information across that template can still be used for other areas, other reports, other things, other information you need, but the form that you actually need to supply to OSHA is being filled out in the background. So overall, guys, being informed, proactive, and prepared for any situation is everyone's responsibility. So B2W Inform really supports a holistic approach for your company, from template creation to filling out forms, running reports. This all means that everyone is involved in gathering the data and acting on any situation within the company, not just for OSHA. B2W Inform makes data gathering and reporting for any part of the organization efficient and easy. Well, that concludes our webinar today. We do have some time to take some questions and answers. While we're waiting on those questions and answers to come in, I do want to thank everybody for attending another of our webinars in the series of B2W webinars. If you do have any questions, you can always, for our current customers, you can always call our client support department at the number you see there. For any of the other folks out there, if you have any questions, you can always call our sales department. We'll be glad to get you online, talk to you, even set up a more in-depth demo that's related to your company. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll also be sending out a link to the webinar to all the attendees in case you have folks that couldn't make it today and you want them to see the webinar. And overall, folks, thank you for joining us, but keep a lookout for all future B2W software webinars. Thank you very much.